everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm down at Hendrick Lexus Northlake. We get to check out their 1996 Acura NSX-T. So huge shout out to them for providing this car for me today. Make sure you guys check out their website. That info is down in the description. The NSX-T that you see behind me is finished off in Formula Red, and they had an original MSRP ranging between $60,000 and $80,000. And to start off today's review, we're going to take a look at what powers this NSX. This has a mid-engine 3-liter VTEC V6. This model is paired to the 4-speed automatic. A 5-speed manual was available. With the automatic, it pumped out 252 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque. The manual bumped that up to 270 horsepower. That power is sent to the rear wheels. This weighs in right around 3,100 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 around 6 seconds with a top speed of 168 miles an hour. And it has a fuel capacity of 18.4 gallons. You'll expect to see around 18 miles per gallon in the city and 24 out on the highway. This has a wheelbase of 99.6 inches. Its overall length is 174.2. It has a width of 71.2, a height of 46, and its ground clearance measures in at 5.3 inches. As we move on now to the exterior styling for this 1996 Acura NSX-T, it has aged very, very well. The exterior has a lot of sleek lines just to give it more of a classic look, and yet it still looks like it could be made today. Has a great design to it. It does have some old technology, however, like the pop-up headlights, which just have the headlights and the high beams, of course. The turn signals are mounted in the bumper, and then there are a lot of cutouts in that bumper to provide a lot of cooling to all of the front engine components. Up underneath what would be the hood is the spare tire, as well as access to the battery and some other components. And as we move on to the side profile now, this model has an aftermarket set of wheels. They measure 17 inches up front, 18s in the rear. The originals were 16 up front and 17 in the rear, so they still offered a staggered setup. You can see NSX on the brake caliper. These rotors measure in just over 11 inches. And for the tires, this has 215s up front and 245s in the rear. So very, very similar to the original specs. The side profile with the roof off gives it even a cooler look. I love all of the lines running just underneath the height of the door handle, but they also lead to functional air inlets. So being a mid-engine vehicle, all of that air can travel down the side of the vehicle, enter there, and further cool the engine. There's even a cutout down in the side skirt, just giving it a really unique design, and of course, leading to that functional piece. As we make our way to the rear now, the body lines flow very, very nicely to this integrated spoiler. You can see a small gap in between it, so that way airflow can go down the back glass and exit through that opening. The taillights have a great design too, with the connector bar running right through the middle, as well as Acura being in that centerpiece. This model does have an aftermarket exhaust, so we'll start that up soon, so that way you can listen to it, of course. I like how there's some black right in the middle, with even more body colored running at the height of the exhaust tips. That black breaks it up a little bit. There's some cutouts, so that way heat can exit the engine and flow right out of the bumper there. But it gives it a really, really nice design. So with the exterior wrapped up for this Acura NSX-T, let's move our way to the cargo area now. Surprisingly, there's actually a button on the key fob that you can push on in order to open that. So there's lock, unlock, there's the trunk button, there's also an option button, which I haven't figured out. I don't know if this doesn't have the option for that to work, but with the trunk released, I can easily open this up where we have the roof currently. So there's a lot of space for this being a mid-engine vehicle and having a trunk behind it that can also hold the roof. Very, very cool to see for this old school vehicle. Now this would make for a great daily driver because of the amount of room that you have. You can own a mid-engine vehicle, still take it to the grocery store if you want to. So a lot of space, really, really nice to see that. And now let's make our way to the interior. The door handle is right behind the NSX badge. There is a keyhole right down in the door. Would have been nice to see that incorporated into the handle just to give it more of a clean look. But all we need to do is pull on that handle. We can open this up where the door panel has a really cool design. Two-tone design back then was really nice to see. The black leather is still in pretty good shape. All of the window controls, side mirror adjustments are just in front of the grab handle. There's 2 air vents on the door panel as well. One of the speakers. This is how you can release the rear trunk storage. There's also a cargo light. Down on the door sill is NSX with manufactured by Honda Motor Company and a number. I'm not exactly sure what that plaque is for, but it's nice to see that addition. And then for this interior, these seats are in really good shape for the age of this vehicle. I love the color, matches really nicely with this exterior red. And then down on the side are all of the automatic adjustments. So you can move this forwards and backwards, as well as recline and incline. There's a fuel cap release, as well as being able to pop the hood. And this is how you gain access to the engine compartment. So now let's make our way to this interior. The door sill is actually not that large, but you kind of just sink down into this car. Plenty of opening to be able to enter and exit. And then obviously with the roof off at the moment, we have a lot of headroom. But the steering wheel is finished off in leather. The horn buttons are on both sides, so not in the traditional place right in the middle. So you can push on that for the horn, obviously. Cruise control is on that right side. And then this has the wiper blades. This is actually how you can shift this vehicle manually. For the sport mode, we have plus and minus. So it's only on one side. There's no paddle shifters like in a traditional vehicle. The turn signal is on this left side, obviously. We have the headlight control stock just behind that, as well as the defroster just by pushing on that button. The leather makes its way to the top of the gauge cluster there, where right in the middle, we have an old school setup. On the right side is the battery voltage, as well as the fuel gauge. There's even the miles per hour. On the left side is the tach and some other engine vitals as well. In the lower section of this gauge cluster, TCS is on this right side. Over on the left side, it looks like the high beams. When I push on that, the lights will automatically go up. And then we do have a dimmer switch for those gauges as well. Let's fire up this Acura NSX now. We have the turn key over on this right side. So if I push it in and turn it once, that will turn on all the auxiliaries. And then from there, we can start this up. And as you heard, that sounds really, really good. I love that aftermarket exhaust. For this interior, the rest of it, we have two air vents right in the middle, as well as fan speed, temperature, all of those controls right in the middle, along with a small screen. The upper screen reads the time, the lower one is for your temperature and all of those controls. And then this even has a cassette player for all you younger viewers. That was something back in the day with those buttons to control that. Volume is on one side, tuning on the other side, and some radio adjustments right in the middle. In front of the shifter, there's an ashtray along with a 12 volt on one side. And then with the leather wrap shifter, I can put it into reverse, put it into drive. The manual mode was right in the middle. So by using that, over on the tach, right now you can see what gear the vehicle is in. And then by using that, I can go through 1, 2, 3, and 4. Obviously, when we get this out on the road, we'll see how that drives. But it's interesting to see there's even a 1 and a 2. So you could put this into a lower gear if you needed to. The manual parking brake is on the right side. I believe this has an aftermarket audio sound system, so that is the remote for that. And right in the middle was a flip-up armrest. So in the front section was a little bit of space and 2 cup holders on the back side. Now it looks like you could remove those if you had a small phone or something that you could place there if needed. So not a whole lot of usable space in the middle, but it is there. And then the glove box had a decent amount of room for any information and documents you needed to put in there. No storage behind the seats, obviously, but again, it's great that we have the engine as well as that rear trunk space and a very, very nice interior. NSX is also down on the floor mats. And we do have some very, very small sun visors. No mirrors on them though, but those could be functional if you needed to use them. So now that I am behind the wheel of the original Acura NSX, my brother actually got to drive the newest version for the NSX a few years back. So I will have that video down in the description below. So that way you can see the difference between the original and the modern twist that Acura decided to make when they brought back the NSX. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a long test drive for today's video, so I'm going to try to go over as much as I can in the short amount of miles that I can put on this today. But so far, this is pretty cool. Even over some bumps there, it's riding pretty well. I'm not on the smoothest road. I'm not going to be able to really test the handling of this car today, but I like it. I am a huge fan of mid-engine cars. I've owned 3. I currently have an Audi R8, and I'm actually surprised looking over my right shoulder for a mid-engine car. This actually has a lot of visibility. These pillars are not bulky at all. So I can clearly see around. The window is basically right there behind me. And I hope the camera's not shaking too much for you guys. It is a bumpy ride, but I love it. That's what this car is for. This is a sports car that I think you could actually still daily drive with the amount of storage space that you have. I pretty much daily drive my R8 and I have a lot of room, so I feel like you have a lot of trunk space to put in items. You can put the roof too. That's awesome to see. And we have a little bit of interior storage, not a whole lot, but I could see this being a daily driver. I really could. It has old school tech in it, so you are pretty much driving this car. And for the true car enthusiast, we don't want all of those bells and whistles. We want something we can hop into and just go for a nice drive and enjoy our drive from point A to point B. Now, I will say it would be even cooler if I was in the 5-speed manual, but this is what I have for today, and I think it's still cool nonetheless. I'm gonna pop it into the manual mode because it is interesting that you shift up and down with a toggle like you were turning on your turn signals. So let's give it a little bit of gas now that this is warmed up. And for what I can do today, it doesn't seem crazy fast, but I know that for the weight of this car, it has a pretty good power to weight ratio. But at the same time too, with how lightweight this car is, this is truly a back type of roads vehicle where you can go through the twisties and really enjoy the car. Okay, maybe I didn't give it enough juice that last time. It gets up and moves. It is a fast car by today's standards. It's nowhere near fast, but it's a quick car even for a 1996. This is still adequate, and I really wish I could get it on some twisty roads to really experience the handling. It does feel a little bit big right now, but take that with a grain of salt because I'm just going slow around the cul-de-sac. But if I tried to come here, it feels like the steering is a little heavy. I got a pretty wide road here. I mean, it's pretty direct. There's some play in it, but nonetheless, this is a cool car. Don't get me wrong. This is a very cool car, and one of the cars that I grew up with. This is one of my childhood cars that was out when I was born, and it's definitely cool. And then switching to the POV angle, you can see what it's like to be behind the wheel of the NSX. I have my camera bag here with the roof in the back. I probably could fit that back there, but since this is not my car, I'm not going to try to do that. And a quick look at visibility. The roof on or off doesn't affect your overall visibility like some other vehicles. Very thin pillar there. So it feels very open for this car. Very awesome to see that. And I'm gonna put it into the manual setting, so that way we can shift using this stock, which is very interesting. For a 4-speed as well, it doesn't really, I mean, at least for the slow speed situations I'm doing right now, doesn't feel like it would need another gear. Obviously, out on the highway, my answer to that would be a little different. But with the top down, really not a whole lot of wind noise. It's barely at the top of my head for the speeds that we're going right now. But we're going to give it a small acceleration. Really listen to that exhaust again. So here we go. Not really loud. It definitely sounds good though in person. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it definitely sounds good. Very interesting to have. Now this toggle here is fixed, so it doesn't turn with the steering wheel. Kind of neat. So if you're going around a turn like I'm about to right now, I can just tap on it even in the turn. As long as I have my hand here, it doesn't move. So kind of interesting to see that. But here we go with one last acceleration for today. And nothing too crazy. We're up to 4th gear, just like that. It comes up quick. Definitely an awesome vehicle. Comment down below, what do you think of the original Acura NSX? 5-speed manual again would be awesome to check out. So maybe one day I can do that. But again, huge shout out to Hendrick Lexus Northlake for providing this vehicle for me today. They always get in some pretty cool used inventory, so definitely check them out. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.